Hi there guys, and welcome to part 2 of the Class 319 pack. This is the third time I've recorded this video, so hopefully this one all goes well. I won't get into why it didn't go well the first time, but let's get the train set up. So we originally just ran this 321 down from Ilford. We're on our way to Clacton, so we're making an 0602 departure to Clacton. Calling Stratford, Shenfield, Chelmsford, Witham, or Whittam, never know what one it is, Kelvedon, Markstay and Colchester. So let's get headlights on, nip to the back of the train quickly and stick on our taillights. We'll go all the way back. Next thing I'm going to do is just stick that into off there, and then Clacton on C 5531. Let's do clear 5531. Enter. We'll talk about the destination indicator in a bit. So I realised there's this view in the Armstrong powerhouse 321 today, and you can go further to the left. That's just by pressing the left key. So you've got that view, and then you've got that one. So it's a lot bigger field of view. So we'll use this one for this journey. If I'd known about this one before, I would have used it before. I'm still heavy breathing. I know that it is irritating. I watch my own videos and get irritated by it, but we're broken rib. There's not too much I can do about it, I'm afraid, at the minute. We'll be going through the rest of the 321 pack. I think the last video we finished talking about thyristors and the traction motors. So we'll go from there sort of onwards. Time to depart, driver. Please remember to close your doors as this is under DOO operation. Cool. So let's bring it. Oh, I don't want L, I want the brakes. So hopefully the volumes are alright for you. I think part 1 of this was actually recorded on my old headset, so it was recorded yesterday before the new one arrived. So it'll be a good little comparison for me actually to look between the two. This one is definitely not cutting out as much. After being told there's a million and one things, it actually became the one thing that one guy told me on YouTube. He said, "It's your boom mic on your headset." I said, no, it's not. It was to do with my computer itself, because I tried the headset on another computer and it was doing a similar thing. But no, it actually turns out it was. So cheers, whoever you were. Can't remember your name. You were correct. So, class 317 there. I think in these scenarios they're standing in for 315s. There would be some 317s in Liverpool Street coming from Cambridge, from Kings Lynn. So I'm just going to wait till we're out and about, and I know I've got a clear stretch of line before we start yabbering on. Because you know what I'll do? I'll end up reading, not watching where we're going, and spad or miss a station or be overspeeding for 5 minutes before I notice. But that's what you've come to see. So again, for those that like the numbers, the manual we're going through today is BR33056/294, and that's issue 1, and that's the driver's manual. We will be going on to the working instructions, and I'll give you the numbers for that when we get a bit closer to that. So I hope you've all watched the channel update, and I'm sure you've already noticed that the sound is 1,000 times better with a new headset. Yeah, I'll say that again, new headset. So tell you what, we're actually going to do is go straight for the working instructions. So this is BR 33069/3. It's just a little bit more. It's less wordy, if I'm honest with you. Oh, bit of a frame rate drop there for some reason. I suppose Stratford is a pretty busy station. It's a big tile to load, I think, for TrainSim to actually load it up. That's what the stutter is, you see, is TrainSim actually loading in the next tile, the next scenery tile. I do have mine on a SSD, and I still have the issue with it. It is a vast improvement, as I've said in previous videos, from a standard hard drive. So as all stops on this route, I'm aiming to hit the platform ramp at about 20. And we are an 8-car unit. So slide that along just to remind myself. I'm going to try and get the DMO mirror right in my sights. Ah! It's probably badly placed, that's what I say. TrainSim badly placed. No, I don't know, actually, to be honest with you. It's a driver-only operation. I'm sure I've been through this before. My train is in DOO, so I'm controlling the doors. Driver-only operation means exactly what it says in the tin. I am the driver, and I am operating the doors. There is no guard on this service. So in real life, I'd be using that mirror there to make sure all my doors were clear before I gave the door close button to press. Also, some stations, most stations I think, will have dispatchers on the platform. Busy stations have dispatchers. Scheduled departure time is 6:10. Okay, we're 30 seconds down. That's probably due to me dithering coming into Stratford there, but we'll make up some time on the next stretch. So I'm going to pick out some key facts about the 321 which I quite like, and just some boring ones like doors. So the doors. The trains have power-operated external double-leaf sliding doors with 4 doorways per vehicle. All the double-leaf means is there's 2 of them. The doors are described as leafs. Don't know why. Maybe that has been something that's happened forever. I've never heard a door being described as a leaf until I looked into railway stuff, so it might just be a railway term. Or I might just not have never heard of it. Not have ever heard of it. Not never heard of it. Not have ever heard of it. These are opened and closed by passengers with push buttons in the doorways, released from a door control panel in the driving compartment, and they are energised by a standard door key switch. So this, through the keyhole here, is a door key switch. So if this guy was driving this at the moment, he'd have a key in that, really. And I think it's a BR1 key, the door key. I'm not 100% sure. I think I've got a couple kicking about somewhere. The driving compartments have power-operated single-leaf sliding plug doors on each side of on the side for the sole use of the driver at the driving end, in use by the conductor at the other end. So driver would use these doors here, and if it was the conductor, he could use those doors there. Now these doors aren't powered as such. They will, air pressure holds them in, yeah, of course it does, but there's no sliding mechanism, so the driver has to push it out and slide it back. Or I think the air holds it in, and you just push it back, slide it back. Heating wise, the heating is controlled by thermostats in the passenger saloon with separate heating indicators for the driving compartment saloon. Heating will come on automatically as required. So there's thermostats. There's also other little bits to that. We have control of the non-driver's side and driver's side of the heating. I don't know if my saloon lights are on. Got a little bit more in depth about the heating in a minute, because it's just something you never really hear of. Or if you're like me, have never really thought of. The description of the destination indicator, so this bit up here is one of my favourite things in this manual. So the destination indicator is push button controlled. Destinations are selected with a calculator type keypad, which incorporates a miniature screen to confirm the information on the main external display. A list of station names and other important information is stored on a removable system inside of the train. It can be programmed at a depot to display the appropriate destinations. So basically what that is saying, I just like it because it says calculator display, and then when you actually do go and have a look at it, it is like a calculator basically. So that would have like a removable drive somewhere on the train that is able to upload the data that it needs to produce the destinations. I'd like to know what it is actually. Those days probably a SCSI drive of some kind with about 4 kilobytes of data on it. So it's Ilford, that's where we came from. So the unit ends on a 321 are fitted with tight lock automatic centre couplings and it's designed to take all the traction and buffing loads. So that basically means it doesn't need buffers. Remember that the side buffers are not provided on these trains, and they must not be allowed to come into contact with buffer stops or other vehicles fitted with buffers and draw gear, except when being assisted in an emergency. So there would be an emergency coupling adapter which would space the train out a bit further. I don't think you'd really want any train to come into contact with buffer stops, would you? Maybe I'm missing something there. So we were also talking about the heating system before. There's another bit on the heating system here that's quite interesting, I suppose, to the right person. Me included, actually. I say that like it's a bad thing. It's not. I quite like to know about these things just for the fact that I know about them. Not because I particularly care about the heating. I like to know things about things, and trains is one of the things I like to know about. So the heating system is electric and thermostatically controlled, designed to maintain a passenger saloon at an approximately constant temperature. This is at all times while the train is in service. It will come on providing the auxiliary set button is pressed, which is up here. If the heating system fails, passengers should be encouraged to move to vehicles where the heating is working. Ventilation should be adjusted with a hopper ventilation as required. When this has been done, check that the heating MCBs in the environment cupboard of the vehicle concerned have tripped. Any MCBs that have tripped should not be reset any more than 3 times before the fault is reported. So it basically means, you find this a lot with railway stuff, you're allowed to reset MCBs 3 times basically. If it fails after 3 times, it's a failure. It's at it, and it's down to maintenance staff to deal with. But if you do it once or twice and it comes back on, then fine, carry on. Lighting. Saloon lighting is fluorescent tube and is switched on in any driving compartment with the lighting on and off push buttons behind the driver's seat. If the main lighting supply fails or there is a loss of traction current, some fluorescent tubes in each coach will work from batteries. To restore the lighting, check the lighting MCB in the environment cupboard of this vehicle concerned. Any tripped MCBs should be reset not more than 3 times, same as before, and the fault reported. Oh, going a bit fast there, going a bit fast. So when the 321s came out, and still to this day with some stock, your effluent was discharged onto the tracks. That was common practice. It still is pretty common practice on some places to this day. Mark 3s, for example, still dump out onto the tracks. Quite a lot of units still dump out onto the tracks. So these were one of the first units to be fitted with retention toilets. So it basically meant that the effluent would go into a tank that needed to be emptied. So retention toilets, where fitted, discharge the effluent into underframe mounted tanks on the ATS vehicle. I love the amount it has to be full. Talk about Metro, talk about Imperial. When it's 7/8 full of liquid, a level switch operates to illuminate the toilet out of order sign near the toilet door. and a blue warning light above the tank on either side of the coach warns staff that this must be emptied. If the toilet continues to be used, a pipe directly dumps the overflow on the track to prevent the retention system becoming overfull and backing up to the toilet WC. So that's quite cool. If you ever see a toilet out of use sign on a 321, it's not go and use it, just stick it on the track. I don't recommend that, I really don't. In all these manuals, there's really cool bits that just say note or warning in great big bold letters. And this one says note. Special maintenance arrangements are necessary for the retention system, which must only be emptied at pre-selected depots that are equipped with the necessary discharge installations. These provide for the neutralisation of any bacteria present. Oh, right. So basically saying you can't empty it wherever you go. If I remember rightly, this is done by vacuum on these anyway, so I don't think you could just open a valve and it come out. I'm pretty sure it's a big ball valve and it's vacuumed out. A bit like how the empty portaloos. I do love the details in the cab of this. So that's a shutting off power now to come into Shenfield. The blinds don't work. Not that they were ever really needed, but it's a nice little immersion feature. There's no 8-car stop, so we'll aim for the stop board. At the same time, I'm pretty sure I'll be well inside. So, next I'm going to talk about actually driving the train. So the pink pages are always about the driving. So these are actually what are called driving instructions. So there's the driving in train depots, yard sidings before entering service. We probably want Something along the lines of driving trains in service. So scheduled departure time of 25, so we've got 10 seconds, that's perfect. Close those doors. So what we need to do is move the master switch into forward, if it's not already there, and keep the DSD foot pedal pressed. So that would be into forward. When starting signal is received and acknowledged, or when the train is ready to move, put the brake controller into step 1. So we go in that way. No, we're going that way. Step 1. After 4 seconds, move the brake controller to release. And the train should normally be accelerated by moving the power controller to notch 4. If it is not to be accelerated through the sections of line where speed limits exist where a lower notch number may be used. So we basically want to go to there, 4 seconds. So we want to go from there to there, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then notch 4. Core, that made it more complex than it needed to be, didn't it? Me fluffing it a little bit there. If the train is to be started on a rising gradient of sufficient severity to cause it to move backwards, when the brake's released, the brake controller must move to step 1. When the train is to be moved, the power controller must be moved to step 1. Oh god, I've read that completely wrong. Sorry guys, let me start that again. If the train is to be started on a rising gradient of sufficient severity to cause it to move backwards, when the brakes are released, but the brake... That doesn't actually make sense. When the brakes are released, the brake controller must be moved to step 1 when the train is ready to be moved. The power controller must be... I know what it means. Basically it means put it into step 1, take power, and then release step 1. But it doesn't say that very easily. And then it says power controller must be used in clause 2.2, and the brake controller must then be moved immediately to release. And then one of the important or warning signs underneath, power must not be applied if the train is moving in a direction opposite to that set by the master switch. If it is necessary to reduce power when running to keep within speed limits or maintaining running time, this should be done by progressively moving the power controller to successively lower notches, pausing for a short time in each notch until the required lower power notch is reached. Note that from the time the power controller is opened, approximately 4 seconds will elapse before the train moves. If changing direction, this time interval will increase to about 7 seconds. So what that's basically saying is don't do that, which I think most drivers did, to be fair. So what you're supposed to do is that. We don't do that though. So the control equipment incorporates wheel spin protection, which detects wheel spin and counteracts it automatically. No action is required by the driver. So that's WSP stuff. I think we spoke about WSP in the other video. So braking. The train is also equipped with wheeled slide protection system. It operates when the brakes are applied and will detect when a wheel is in a slide condition or a condition of low adhesion. If this happens, the brakes will be released and then applied very quickly under automatic control. So that is basically like your ABS in your car. There's little dump valves on the brake cylinders and a sensor that senses the speed that the wheel's turning. So if it senses one axle is turning less than... How am I speeding at 90.8? If it detects one axle is spinning faster than another, it'll just... whereas it's spinning slower than another, sorry, or it's locked up or it's stopped, it'll release some air and let that brake, inject some air and let some brake off that cylinder so that the wheels can regain traction. And it can do that ridiculously fast, just like ABS in your car. So you really, drivers don't have to do anything. I know some still do, and there was a lot of videos that are actually on YouTube as well around the time that these units were coming out in the 365s, basically telling drivers stop fanning the brakes because it was slower than the WSP could do it. So there's a great section in here about energy saving. So it says trains should always be driven in such a manner as to keep the consumption of electrical energy to a minimum. A journey can be divided into 3 parts: running under power, coasting and braking. When the train is moving, energy is stored in its mass and also in its wheels wheels and motors. This stored energy, which is known as kinetic energy, assists in maintenance of speed during periods when the power is shut off, i.e. coasting periods. The kinetic energy of the train is wasted when it is converted into heat as a result of braking. Whenever the conditions allow, therefore, driving techniques should consist of... Alright, you ready for this? Advancing the power control to notch 4, taking care to avoid excessive speed where restrictions exist, shutting off power whenever possible, like when you're speeding, like I am, shutting off power and coasting for periods before the brakes are applied. This will use the stored energy of the train instead of taking power from the wires. The increase in running time using this technique will be minimal when compared with schedules kept by using power to the last possible moment. Timings and the working timetable have been compiled on energy saving principle. Using power up to the point where braking is necessary is a technique only to be used when time is lost or when the train is underpowered. So again, I'm going to refer you to a YouTube video. It's called LT&S, which is the London Tilbury Southend, and it is called Steel Wheel, Steel Rail. Look it up on YouTube, well worth a watch. And it talks about the coasting boards that are on the LT&S and how they use them. And it also does like a timing difference. It does a bit where the driver accelerates the whole time there and then slams the brakes on, and there's one where a guy powers up, coasts and puts brakes on. And I think it's 4-second time difference or something. So it is real, and it uses, I think, 70% less fuel they reckon. So less 70% less electrical energy used, which is quite a lot. A little bit faster now than I want it to be. A little bit further forward than I should be, but not bad. Okay, the next section we'll talk about is blue papers and the green. So blue is driver static duties. These are what, it's a static still. These are what you do when you first get to a unit, really. So preparation instructions for a single unit. I'll tell you what, we're in multiple. We are in multiple, so let's look at preparation in multiple. 34:30, so we're already a little bit late. Let's get those doors closed. Okay, so preparation instructions for units in multiple. Approach the train at what is to be the driving compartment, checking as so far to see that no not to be moved targets or red flags are visible on either side. Check the emergency bypass switch, AWS isolating switch, and the vigilance isolating switch, and the traction interlock switch have not been operated, and that the drum switch is fully in the uncoupled position. Preparations for instructions units in multiple. Well, the drum switch at the front wouldn't be, would it? I don't know. Right, carry on. Enter the driving compartment and check that the brake controller is in step 3/full service. Insert the master key and move the master switch to the neutral and carry out the following. Press the auxiliary set push button and check that the VCB indicator light is illuminated. So let me show you that quickly. That would be, put it into neutral, which is N, then press the auxiliary set and then check the vacuum circuit breaker light. Here. Did I say vacuum circuit breaker light? VCB indicator light. I think that means the line light. I don't know, no, it says that's the tripped ones, that must be. I don't know, I like that to think that that is. Maybe it is just called the VCB illumination light. Press and release the AWS reset push button to silence the horn. Check the lighting is available when the lighting set push button is pressed. Check that all MCBs are set and on and switches are correctly positioned. Check the repair book, if at that end contains no serious defects that have not been signed off. Switch the destination indicator on and set up. Check that the following are available. Track circuit clips, a red flag, the detonator's case is sealed, and that 2 sets of track circuit operating clips are in position in accordance with the rulebook section H. The BCF fire extinguisher is in position with the seal intact, and where applicable the pressure gauge needle is in the screen section. So it's up here, and we have it in the green. We also should have a manual tight lock uncoupling bar. Next, what we need to do is press the pan up, reset and push button for 2 minutes. Check that the line indicator illuminates and the VCB light indicator goes out. Right, okay, yeah, because we wouldn't have to go anywhere up, so the VCB would be open. So ignore that last minute of me flapping in my brain. Walk through the first unit and check all the internal condition and that the following equipment is available: the emergency equipment, a ladder, fire extinguisher, all MCBs set and switch, all set and switches correctly positioned in the PMS vehicle. Carry out a door test procedure in the general appendix and the appendix of the rule book if in DO trains. It's driver operated train, which we were. In the rear driving compartment of the first unit, check that the repair book is at that end has no serious defects and it has not been signed off. Check the EBS, AWS, VIS and traction lock are all down. That's these things here. I'll go into them in a minute. And check that the brake handle is in step 3. There is a red flag, sealed detonator and 2 sets of track circuit operating clips in the other cab as well. Check the BCF fire extinguisher like we did, and we should also have a manual tight lock operating bar. So the same as in the front. All MCBs set switches are in the same position. Now we need to leave the rear driving compartment and ensure that our driving compartment windows are closed and that the door is closed and locked when leaving. Return to the driving compartment and lock the door from the passenger saloons. Switch the tail lights, marker lights and headlights on. Move the master switch to off and remove the master key. Alight for the train and walk to the rear, checking en route as far as can be seen. So what we would have done there is turned off the train, taken the master key out, got out of the train, turned all the front lights on and all the rear lights on. So we walk down the train, and what we're doing is we're checking now down the side. The draw gear, suspension and brake gear are in good order. There's no scotches are in position, so they're like wheel chocks. There's none of those there. The main reservoir pipes are correctly coupled and their isolating cocks are open, so you do them in between the carriages. The jump cables are correctly positioned again in between the carriages. The main reservoir pipe, isolating cocks and the brake isolating cock, air suspension isolating cock and door reservoir isolating cock are open if on that side of the train, so they're only on one side, so you need to be on that side to see them. You also want to check that the shore supply switches are at normal, the pantograph is not damaged, no marker lights, tail lights or headlights are illuminated at any intermediate driving compartment, so in the middle of the train. So if you have two banged together, you wouldn't want them to be lights on in the middle of the train, basically. And you want to also check that all intermediate drum switches are in their correct position and the telltales are correct in the tight lock couplers. So the tight lock couplers is a little pin that pops up to show you when it's coupled correctly, and that's called a telltale pin. So then we would return to the rearmost driving compartment and carry out... Oh, no, 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 no. We're not going to make with them, and I'm not going to stop. We're just going to keep going. So we will fail the scenario, but this video will be the same. Oh, we're going to be a bit early. We'll run a little bit slower for a while. It's Kelvedon. It's only 3 miles away. So we entered the rearmost driving cab. We insert the master key and we move the master switch to neutral and press the AWS reset button. When the main reservoir pressure is at approximately 7 bar and the master key switch is in forward, move the brake control to step 2 and step 1, then turn, ensuring that the brake cylinder pressure falls in each selected step. Move the brake control to release momentarily, check the brake cylinder pressure falls to 0 and immediately return the brake control to step 1. Move the master switch forward or reverse without pressing the DSD and check the brake cylinder pressure rises to the maximum. So that would be because you haven't got the DSD on, your brake cylinder pressure will rise so you can drive off anywhere without having the DSD pressed. So it's basically showing that the DSD is working. Test the radio if fitted. Move the master switch to off. Switch the headlight, marker light and tail light on and alight from the train. Check them again. Return to the driving cab. Check the fire extinguisher like we did. So then we need to walk to the leading cab along the opposite side of the train, where possible, to complete the checks that we saw before. So that was the reservoir cock, suspension, pantograph, all that jazz. At the leading end, check that the tail lights and marker lights and headlights are illuminated. Enter the leading driving compartment and switch the tail lights off. Insert master key and move the AWS, cancel the AWS. And make sure the pressure rises to 7 bar, just like in the rear cab. And then it's the same thing, so we just move the control to release, test the DSD, test the radio fitted, and then we're ready to go. Well, it's a fair bit of work, that, isn't it? But it just becomes so routine to you that it just becomes normal. Think of something you do every day in your job, I think it'd just be the same as that, really, wouldn't it? We'd be running ridiculously early. We shouldn't have even left the previous station. So when finishing up for a train, but you know somebody else is going to take over, you have to do what's called immobilise the train. And that, you have to move the brake control to step 3. Oh no, this is actually shutting down a train. So usually they call this disposal instructions, but they don't on here. They call it immobilising. Move the control to step 3, press the pan down, push button, check that the VCB light illuminates. And it says, note! Local instructions may require the pantograph to be left at the raised position. So move the master switch to off, and we're actually going to make this stop. Press the light and trip push button. Switch the tail lights on for safety reasons and the headlights and master lights off. Leave the driving compartment with its lights extinguished, windows closed and saloon locked. Press auxiliaries trip if necessary and check all the lights are extinguished. Close the door when alighting. So yeah, shutting it down really. I don't think many EMUs are stored with their, stabled with their pantographs down. I know some places will hook them up to shore supply, especially depots and things. It's no excuse for not trying to get this stop right, because we've got plenty of time. It's weird to think that when I was little, this was one of the most futuristic looking trains in the world at my age, when I was younger. I used to think it looked so modern. Departure time's 49. Tell you what we'll do then, we'll have a quick look down the train. That is my favourite seat in a 321. Mainly because above your head is this vacuum circuit breaker. Now that thing makes a good thud every time you go through a neutral section, and it's nice to hear. There's not much you can hear on an EMU, is there? So it's nice to sit in the pantograph coach and hear all the noise. What did it say my departure was? 49? Yeah, I think it was. We'll run a little bit early. Oh, come on. There we go. It's because the DSD had gone off. Oh, wasn't it forward? If I was watching this video, I would be screaming at the screen right now, going, "You absolute muppet! Don't know what you're doing." So I hope you're all doing that for me. So fault finding stuff, I'm not going to go through them all. There are literally about 1 billion pages of fault finding stuff. I'll go through some fun ones like fire on a train. If a fault occurs, look for a chart with the appropriate heading. This will show the various possible causes of the trouble and indicate the actions to be taken. Try and rationalise the cause of the problem so that it can be put into a simple category like loss of power, reduction, or complete loss of air pressure. The simpler defects should be checked before the more... What? Oh, right, okay, I get what you're saying here. The simpler defects should be checked before the more difficult ones, basically. So no immediate action is necessary to a slight reduction in power, but check that the equipment at the next stopping point, no obvious defects can be seen, and complete the journey. A severe reduction in power should be investigated within 5 miles at the most convenient stopping point. Stop immediately if there's excessive noise, smoke, or smoke emitted from any equipment. So I'm just trying to find some the fault ones are pretty sort of like aircraft flowcharts really. So fire on a train. First thing you need to do is lower the pantograph, stop, press auxiliaries trip button immediately. Warning: when the push button is pressed, radio communication will be lost. Stop the train at a signal if possible. Fire inside a coach, major fire or fire equipment under the coach. Let's just remember we're stopping at Mark's Tay here. Call the fire service. Arrange for traction current to be cut off if necessary. Call the fire service if necessary. Use fire extinguishers. Attend to the safety of the passengers. Trip batteries positive MCB on the PMS vehicle. If in multiple, reset the auxiliaries trip MCB on the serviceable unit. So basically just turn everything off. It's kind of what I'd be aiming to do as well. I suppose in layman's terms, you think about it, it's just a big electric machine. Do you see I completely overbraked here? Stupidly. So it's quite odd sitting here reading these manuals and you sort of, I mean, I had 321s before I had the manual. You realise I've got terrible driving technique, but even reading the manual, I can't get out of it. So imagine drivers that did have bad technique and then going into it. I'm not doing this for real life. I'm doing this in a simulator. I suppose drivers do get the simulator to practice these sorts of things, like stopping to see the boards, or the CCTV as it is here. Apart from being late, that weren't a bad stop, was it? Can't moan at that. Slow. So I'm just pretending that there's pictures on here of people getting on and off the train. Hurry up! 6:55, that's cool. That's where we're going. Next up's Colchester, 5 miles. That ain't too far. So in our last 5 miles, I'll go through the way it describes the doors. Description of the doors. The doors are of the double-leaf sliding type and operated by air pressure from electrically operated valves controlled by push buttons mounted on the door control panels. Both driving trailers have in addition a pair of single-leaf sliding plug type driving compartment doors, also known as crew doors. These are controlled by push buttons on the driver's desk and also by external 2-position valves, one on each side. Any of the doors may be opened or closed by hand if no air pressure is available. Each pair of doors can be locked out of use with a carriage key using, so I've got to see a section called door locking. The doors are speed sensed and door release will not be effective until the unit is at a standstill. A door opening when the train is in motion above 9 miles an hour will automatically apply the brakes. So there you go. The passengers open and close the doors themselves with internal door open and close push buttons and a single external door open push button adjacent to each set of double doors. A typical double leaf door and its controls. It says there's a picture of it. You can't see. For emergency evacuation, in an emergency, when it's not possible to exit through the next coach, a passenger emergency exit lever is provided beneath a break glass cover above every double leaf door. When this lever is operated, the air pressure in the door mechanism is released to allow the door leaves to be pulled apart manually. Warning, there are no external steps below the double leaf doors. So you should all know how to get out of that. Sit on your bum and sort of squish yourself out. And if train evacuation, things like that, there used to be a good video of Great Eastern train evacuation, but it's not on YouTube anymore. But there is the First Great Western safety videos. There's a customer one and a staff one on YouTube that are worth a watch. Oh. That was really silly of me. There you go, that's what happens when you don't cancel your AWS in time, because you're too busy trying to look good outside the windows. And that, my friends, is one of the main reasons I don't like doing exterior shots. So let's get this done as quick as we can. That was very bad practice there, but it got us moving. Pretend that didn't happen. So this is us just coming up to the end of the part 2 of it. Part 3 will be about what TOCs they've operated with, what regions they've been on. 321s, 320s and 322s have been lots of places. Anywhere there's overhead lines, they've basically been. And we'll get into the different liveries and stuff that they've worn and bits and pieces like that. So as always, thanks ever so much for watching. If you'd like to make sure you take all your belongings with you when you depart the train. No, not really. Please feel free to like, share and subscribe. As I say at the end of every video, it does make a difference to me. And it makes a difference to you. It costs you nothing to click those buttons, guys. But it means I can bring you more content. And all in all, that's what we all want to see. I want to play more trains and you want to see more trains, so let's get doing it. So I think Colchester is one of the longest platforms in Britain, if not the. I know Cambridge is like second or third, I think. Right, it's going to tell us you failed miserably. Oh, Spirex valve. Platforms are a bit low. Hello, driver. Unfortunately, I've not managed to complete all the tasks today. That is like the third time I've done it today as well. Again, thanks for joining me, and get ready for part 3 of the 321 series, which will be up in a couple of days. Cheers, guys.